Still figuring out life? Good. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I'm Mary Choi Kelly, PhD, mom, leadership coach, and C-suite veteran with 30 years of helping leaders thrive. On this podcast, Fresh Out and Figuring It Out, we give young adults the mic so they can share their stories and everyone listening can understand who they truly are and what's on their minds. We're also showing the real side of young men, one that defies stereotypes, so that we can rewrite the story together and help every young adult, both men and women, grow into confident, compassionate leaders who know their worth and lead with heart. Follow the show. We're figuring it out together, one story at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fresh Out and Figuring It Out. Today's guest is Benjie Kim, and this episode is pretty cool, in my opinion, because Benjie is also my cousin. We'll get into more of an introduction in just a little bit, but before we do that, you all know that every episode begins with a would you rather question, so I've got one for you, Benjie.
All right.
So here's your question. Would you rather be chased by one horse-sized halibut or 100 halibut-sized goldfish?
That's a good one. I would probably have to go with a horse-sized halibut. I think something about numbers is kind of frightening for me. Maybe I just picture like the old school piranha movie, even though it's goldfish and I know it's harmless. And then probably the halibut too, because if I could somehow win that battle and not get taken down by it and I can get him, then I can eat him. So
there you go. I love it. And we'll get into more of that later on the show, I'm sure. So thanks, Benjie, for playing along. Like I said, I'm so excited that you joined me today. We grew up together. Let's kind of tell the audience here. So my dad and your mom are brother and sister. So my dad is the older brother, your mom's his younger sister. When we first immigrated, we went to Chicago, and then we actually came to California because of the warmer weather and because your mom was there and she had already kind of established herself. So we ended up buying a house like one block away, and we lived essentially on the same block. We had a very similar upbringing from the standpoint of being raised in a very, very Christian family. Although I have to say, for living so close together and being very close in terms of family ties, we really didn't see that much of each other.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of interesting for us to talk about too, given the Korean culture and my dad being the male and your mom being the female. And so marrying into another family when she met your dad. So we've got a lot to unpack. So let's just jump in. Why don't you introduce yourself, Benjie, to the audience?
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me, Mary. And I think this is a wonderful thing that you're doing. So my name is Benjie. I'm 48 years old. And like Mary mentioned, we're cousins and grew up like one block away from each other. And I love, actually, even when we had lunch last week, it was really cool just hearing stories that I actually didn't know about if you hadn't brought it up after all these years. And so even when you mentioned you guys came from Chicago, I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh.
And I was wondering, like, wait, did my parents move from Chicago? No, I don't think so. They were in Arkansas. I'm just thinking baby brother. I don't know anything. I'm like the youngest. So I have an older sister, Jamie. I call her Nuna, and she's more, I don't know who's older, like similar age.
I'm a little bit older because we're the same grade and same year, but I was born in March and she was born in September. So I'm I'm Nuna too. So I'm 6 months older.
Nuna, okay, thanks Nuna. That's right. Yeah, so I mean 7-year difference, so my sister's 7 years older than me, which is a pretty decent gap. And so I'm like oblivious baby brother, that's kind of how I grew up. And I think that can actually tie into, the rest of our talk in terms of growing up as a boy and as a young man and
Especially
growing
in
up as the
the
baby.
Asian culture and the Korean culture,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
when you look at both of our families, I have two brothers. I have an older brother and a younger brother. So when we did get together, the five of us, right, you definitely were the little baby, right?
That's
Because
right.
my younger brother, David, is only 2 years younger than me.
Yeah,
So there was quite a gap there. And so Jamie and I, and then the three boys running around.
that's right. Yeah, and that's interesting too. I love how you said that because I didn't even think about that. I'm like the baby of the babies,
That's right.
from the two Korean families living in Orange Park Acres.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, so that's kind of my introduction. I would kind of parlay that into what Mary described in terms of our very basic family dynamics. But yeah.
So, talk about growing up. And like we both said, we grew up in a very Christian, faith based family. And I spent every weekend at church. Any kind of vacation during the school year was at a vacation Bible school retreat
Sure.
or something like that, or youth group events. There really wasn't a lot outside of that. And
Hmm.
I know that you actually spent even more time in the church because your dad was a pastor and you ended up actually following in his footsteps for some time, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, faith and religion was, I wouldn't say just important, it was everything in the family dynamic in terms of the way that I was raised. And it's kind of funny, like we talked about this when we had lunch too, was we were one block away, but we weren't particularly close as families. And I think maybe a good chunk of that was just because my dad is the man, like as the male on that side of the marriage, and then I had such a huge family on that side, and
Yeah.
so that was kind of like the dominant side of the family, and so that's kind of who I interacted with more and was just more familiar with. At the same time, so Mary, as I was thinking about this, is like I don't have very many really like clear memories of actually even interacting with you when I was that age, when we were living
Well,
there.
that makes me kind of sad.
I mean, and I'm not saying it in any kind of negative way
Yeah,
whatsoever.
right.
Like I don't remember anything negative. It's just I just never really saw you. But I
Yeah.
actually have a lot of memories of your house. Like when I was in elementary school, I used to go to your house after school every day. I'd ride my bike there, and then Halmoni, grandma, would always cook for me. I would take naps with her in her bed when I was a kid during those times,
Right.
and
Oh.
I do have some core memories with them.
To your point, Benji, I think it makes sense because I think at that age, it really was the girls playing together and the boys
Right,
playing together.
hundred
There
percent.
wasn't really a ton of interaction
Right.
across the girls and the boys. And I do want to point out as well what you just said that in the Korean culture, if you're the daughter, it really
Mm-hmm.
is like you give your daughter away when they
Mm,
get married. Right?
mm,
Like they definitely go with their husband's family. I know that in the American culture and many cultures, women take the male, last name, but in the Korean culture, it is essentially like you are part of that new family.
yeah.
And everything that you are raised to become is to be a good wife for the new family,
Right.
and how marriageable are you, and can you cook and can you take care of the kids and can you, live up to the expectations of this other family? Are they going to want you? And
Yeah.
so, it's actually interesting because when you look at it that way, it makes sense that we didn't spend a lot of time together. But
Hmm.
I remember being young and even as I grew older, feeling like this is strange. Like,
Yeah.
why aren't we spending more time together?
Hmm.
Because we do live so close together.
Right.
And Jamie and I, are pretty close. And,
Yeah.
we've become even closer now as adults.
Yeah.
But I've never really took the time to kind of think through it
Yeah.
rationally from the paradigm of the Korean culture. But
Right.
it does make sense, right? Your mom was
Right.
now part of the Kim family.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so you guys kind of went with the Kim family and we were
Hmm.
the Choi family.
Yeah. Just sitting down with you. I always am reminded of like those core memories and some of those things that happened.
So let's talk about it. You grew up in Orange County. We all grew up there. Not many Asians. Where we grew up, we went to high school. You went to seminary. So what drove you
Yeah.
to make that decision? And tell me about your experience with that.
Yeah. Faith was, like I said, paramount in both of our families. And for me, I never questioned it. It was 100% part of me and my psychology, everything that I thought as a kid and even as a young adult. I never questioned it. And, looking back now in hindsight, like there are a lot of things, but that I can look back on. But at the time, I mean, it was very, very pure. And I would say maybe because I was the baby of the family and a lot of time had passed, and as immigrant parents, we'll never know what our parents had to go through to try to make it for us and just to survive. And so, my parents, looking back, they were so stressed, obviously just trying to pay the bills. And despite all those troubles, maybe because I came later, I was just so loved. I think obviously no family is perfect and nothing you go through is ever perfect, but my childhood memories, core memories, are overall pretty positive. I walk away as an adult thinking back to when I was a kid, and all I remember is like I felt loved, whether
Yeah.
it be from grandma, or my parents, and things like that. And so very, very grateful. Faith was integral in all of that. And so, yeah, I followed in my dad's footsteps. I think it was probably in college where at UC Irvine where I majored in English. And again, I was so like, huh? Like I feel like my whole existence has been, huh? Like, my sister's doing this salutatorian, going to UCLA. She's going to be a teacher. And even all my friends that I graduated from Elmo with, they all getting UCLA. I scrape by into UC Irvine, they're all going medical route. They all know what they want to do, and I don't know, oh, you guys are taking APs. I'll take an AP, like, and so like, I was just following everyone else. I had no idea. And then I go to Irvine. What are you going to major in? I don't know, and my sister was an English major. Oh, that sounds pretty practical, so that's literally how I became an English major. And then still super hyper religious during those years, very, very involved in church, kind of like you mentioned in terms of your experience. It was what I wanted. It was what I was passionate about. It was my identity. It was my friendships. It was everything.
It was
And
your
so
life. I mean,
it was my
really,
life, 100%.
you were surrounded by it at home and you were surrounded by it in your peer group. Yeah. And and there's a lot of positives. I mean, it is such a strong community.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many positive messages. And, so I look back and I am really grateful for some of the experiences that I had during those years as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't, again, like we can get to it later, but when it comes to a faith perspective, a lot has evolved, since then. But looking back, like through all the ups and downs, I don't regret any of it. I think that was just who I was at the time, and it was what I loved, and it was genuine. And I don't think there was anything wrong about it per se,
Yeah. So you
Um,
took that further and you decided after UCI to go to seminary school,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah. So I think it was kind of latter college where I decided, like, hey, I want to become a pastor too. My parents actually did a wonderful job of never bringing it up. They were probably praying for it, so the whole time, but they never pushed me in that direction. They might have Jedi mind effed me to
Yeah,
go in that
I'm sure
direction, but
they did.
they never explicitly said, And so when I told them I was going to go to seminary, I think they were totally stoked. And yeah, it was what I wanted to do. I saw my dad doing it and I looked up to my dad. Part of those early young adult years, my dad and I had an incredibly abrasive relationship. There was a time in my early young adult life where I was like, I hate my dad, where that's how much we bumped heads.
Mhm.
And so, as much as we bumped heads, I think he did inspire me, and I think that's just the role of the father,
Your dad had so much charisma and passion and
Yeah.
energy. And when you walked into a room, you couldn't help but notice your dad. And
Mm.
even though he was a very slight man, right? In
Mm-hmm.
terms
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't know, was he 5'6" or
Probably. I was taller.
something like
I'm
that, right?
5'7". I'm taller than him.
Yeah,
I
I
was
mean, he
taller than him.
wasn't
So.
a big figure, but he had a big presence. And
Mm.
so I can understand when you say that, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
he definitely had an aura around him. And to your point, I do think there can be a tension between a father and son,
Yeah.
similarly, a
Mm-hmm.
mother and daughter,
Sure.
so I do think that is a very natural part of growing up.
Yeah.
So why don't you go into that a little bit? So
Yeah. Yeah.
especially since you did follow in your dad's footsteps, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be a pastor.
Yeah, it's funny. For whatever reason had forgotten some of these stories that I'm about to tell. Yeah, so we had a very abrasive relationship. Part of it was the fact that I wasn't my sister. Like I did not get good grades. I wasn't a good student, and obviously that's pretty important for Asian American families, for their kids to be good at school. And I wasn't. I was passionate about baseball and sports. Like that's all I thought about at the time was baseball. I played varsity baseball at Elmo. That's all I cared about. And my grades were bad, and so that was probably the biggest
And Korean
part.
parents definitely do not understand that at all. In
Yeah, yeah,
terms of having a passion for athletics or sports, it's like, wait, no, that's a hobby you do. That is not
right,
something you take seriously.
right.
You need to be studying.
Yeah, and to some extent, whether it's right or wrong, I understand why, because they're trying to survive. They came to the States with nothing in their pockets, and they're trying to survive. Why the hell are you
And
trying?
build a better life for their
Yeah,
children. And
yeah,
that's not a path that they see. That's not in the playbook.
right. Right. So why are you getting B's and C's and all you think about is baseball?
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I understand,
Well, as a parent, you probably understand
Right,
in a
right,
way, right?
exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I think into college and everything, my dad eventually retired as the head pastor of the church that we went to. We were both still going there and involved there. And I remember it was end of college, maybe 2002 or 2003. So post college, the church that I was at had a church split. It fractured and it was really ugly. And there was like lawsuits and all this kind of stuff going on. My dad had retired, but he was still there. And the reason for the fracture was between him and the pastor that he gave the
Yeah.
church to. But yeah, so that happened, and that was a very, very stressful time for my dad. And it was a very ugly and dark time. It was the first time where I experienced the dark side of church. Because I always heard about churches where things got ugly, where there's a running joke like, hey, let's make like a Korean church and split. It was a very
Oh my God.
common, like, it's a very common thing. You like Korean churches, like that church split. My church would never split, because it was so beautiful and pure. So that happened. It was really dark. And I remember during that time, we're all just trying to survive, and just a dark period. And my dad was super stressed. And I remember there was an argument. He came home one day from church, and he heard something about he heard something about something I said to my college pastor, that upset him. Like he said, he thought that maybe I told my college pastor that we should leave the church and go somewhere else and become an independent thing. But the details don't matter. Whatever he heard pissed him off about me. And so he came home and he just came at me. He was just like, did you say this? And his face was all red. And I'm like, my friends were over in the other room playing video games. And he's just literally yelling at me. And I'm like, oh, his face is all red. And then it culminated with him screaming at me, you are not my son.
Wow.
And it was like, it's a core memory, like I knew he didn't mean it because I was older, but he still said it, he still said it to my face.
Sticks with
My
you.
my friends all heard it.
Yeah.
They're all in another room.
Kicking in their boots.
They're like, what the hell? I peeked over. Hey, I think you guys should leave now. And next thing you hear the cars, they're already gone, dude. They're like, screw this.
We're out.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a very, and that was before I started seminary. So, that was an interesting thing that happened. But in a weird way, that moment actually um, inspired me even more to go to seminary because eventually my dad and we didn't have like a full on reconciliation, but there was a moment a few weeks later where he was laying in his bed and I went to him and he started crying. And I don't think I had ever seen my dad cry. It was like all that stress was coming out in a moment of quiet. Like all the yelling had subsided, like stuff was done, and I remember going to him and we were just chit chatting about something, and like in a calm, quiet voice, like I just remember him starting to cry, and I remember just laying. It was a twin bed, and I remember just going into bed and just laying by his side, and it was like I remember that was the moment that I remember saying like, dude, I got to become a pastor too because I want to right the wrongs that have happened here, and I want to honor his legacy because there were a lot of people that hated my dad because of that. And honestly, like I don't know all the details, but I know for sure he wasn't perfect. If anything, if I were a betting man, I would say he probably shouldn't have done the things he did. And maybe if he were alive today, maybe he would say the same. I'm not sure. Heat of the moment, you
Well,
don't
he
know
was
what you're doing.
strong. I mean, I think he
Yeah.
had a strong opinion about things.
Oh
And I
yeah.
do think that even, my dad wasn't a pastor, he was an elder, but I know that my dad as well.
Yeah.
These Korean men, they've got strong opinions and they
Yeah.
are a bit stubborn.
Right.
So I think it is humbling and it is an honest kind of thing for you to say. And no one's perfect. And
Yeah.
we all have made our share of mistakes. I've got a ton of them. So to your point, I'm sure your dad would similarly see that, hey, maybe I could have done things differently or would have done things differently. And, when I look at you and your sister and everything that you did to take care of your dad throughout all the years, because your
Yeah.
dad did have Alzheimer's, right? And he did pass several years ago. You guys were just exceptional children to be there for him to the end.
Yeah. Well, my sister probably did more than me, but
Don't cut yourself any of the credit. I know that you guys were on a schedule every other week. I saw all the posts with you and your children there.
Yeah.
Don't continue to play those stories in your head, Benjie.
Okay. Understood. Yeah. So yeah, that was definitely like a pivotal moment in my life where I decided, hey, this is for sure what I'm going to do. And so I went to Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena, got my Master of Divinity, and and then from there I became a pastor. I was probably in the church ministry for about 10 years. And I thought that's what I was called to do. And that's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I was passionate about it. Yeah, it was I loved it, but I'd say like this is where I'll say like I look back and I was probably, when did I start becoming a pastor? Late 20s, maybe in my late 20s, 27, 28, something like that, when I became a pastor and was actually actively like a pastoring at a church. And I look back now, dude, I was so immature. I was so immature. And I think that what made me a good pastor and what made me like good at what I did was I think my heart was pure. Deep down inside, like I was a very sincere, passionate person that I did not have any ulterior motives in my heart for doing what I did. And so that I think was good about what I did during that time. What was negative about my time as a pastor, looking back now, was I was so insecure, like so insecure. I cared deeply about how people thought about how I was doing. I felt deeply about whether I was justifying my job. Whenever I preached a sermon, I felt deeply about whether it was good or not, and whether people felt moved by a particular sermon or not, or whether it sucked. Everything I did was out of people pleasing, out of insecurity, out of like wanting to prove myself that I deserved to be where I was at.
And first of all, just thank you for sharing that in such an honest way, because I think that is your 20s. right?
Yeah.
We look back now, you're in your 40s, I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to look back now, but in our 20s, we are all about proving ourselves, gaining credibility. We're faking it till we make it, quite
Yeah.
honestly, right?
Yeah.
And, whether you are a pastor, an HR professional, an
Sure.
athlete, whatever you might be, it's those years are not easy.
Nope.
And and to think about what you are doing, because you're actually in the public eye. You've got a community, you've got a what is it called in the church, you've got your members, that you're in front of, and you are the face of the church.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure on
Yeah.
somebody.
I think it's crazy, like the insecure parts and the people pleasing things. Like, yeah, during that time I would be going to so many leadership conferences and leadership this, leadership that, where they teach you those things about, don't worry about how you're viewed, like confidence and all those things that I was embodying. I would talk about not being like that, like literally. But looking back, I was fully immersed in those things. And I would counter with what you just said about that's what the 20s is. I do agree that that's what the 20s is, especially as a male. And at the same time, I don't think that every single boy, young man during those years is the same level of insecure. I think
Sure.
it's a spectrum of, right?
Yes.
And some people just have it better put together than others. And we're both parents of young boys. Yours are a little older,
Yeah.
but like it's what we strive to try to instill them with, so that they don't have to learn later than
Yeah.
later in life. That hopefully
Yeah.
they're equipped to some of those things.
Well, and to your point, though, I mean, people are always very surprised when I tell them that I was an incredibly shy person for most of my life, because my career and the persona that I have with my career is very different. And there's kind of two ways that you could talk about confidence, right? There's confidence on the outside, which is what people see.
Yeah.
And you can learn that behavior pretty easily, whether it's through training or practice or what have you. And then there's confidence on the inside.
Yeah.
Feeling really secure, like you said, like really knowing who you are.
Right.
Feeling good about who you are.
Yeah.
And not needing external, reinforcement or acknowledgement.
Right.
I, to this day, have pretty strong confidence on the outside, which I developed over time. The confidence on the inside, just innately by nature, I am not that confident on the inside.
And that's
day.
powerful. That's so powerful. I love. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I love hearing that. That's
To this day, I'm 55. I'm going to be 56, right? And I'm an expert, from externalized in many things. Yeah. And I still, when I do something, I'm the one that ruminates. I'm the one that's like, oh, I could have said that a little differently.
Yeah.
Why did I say this? Or next time I'm going to do that. Now, there's positives to that, because guess what? I'm going to make it a point that the next time I encounter something that, it's going to be done better.
Yeah.
However, I don't give myself the self-love. And you're right. There's a lot of people that have it nailed, where they've got the confidence on the inside. Yeah. Right? And maybe they don't show it on the outside, or maybe they do. Right. And there's also, kind of opportunities for those types of people too, because some people, and we all know them, some people are so confident on the inside that they're like, hold on. Like, I'm not so sure that you should be saying or doing that, right?
Yeah.
But they're not actually going to stop and think about it, because they're very self-assured. Right. So it's kind of, knowing where you are. Yeah. And actually embracing that
Right.
and, doing what you need to do to get you to where you want to be.
That's right. Yeah.
So, so you were a pastor and then things changed.
Yeah.
So, what changed for you?
Yeah. So, the reason why I ended up leaving the ministry was, well, that's not the reason is not always the reason. It probably would have happened eventually anyways. But the actual thing that happened was the church I was at, there was a dramatic end to how I left. And without getting into details, the church was in a constant state of turmoil for probably the entire 5 years that I was a full-time pastor there. And just keep in mind that I was pastoring the best I possibly could during those years, but very, very insecure, very, very immature. And when it all ended, it was very nasty. And the church closed down not too long after I stepped down. And if I didn't step down, I would have been fired.
So it's got to be really hard, though, to have that kind of an experience in a church when it was and religion and church and Christianity, all that is such a big part of your life and your
Yeah.
identity. So
Yeah.
how did that impact you?
Thinking back, I was probably already in a state of deconstruction, even as I was a pastor, but they were very, very, it was very buried deep, deep, deep inside my mind. I've actually deconstructed a lot since then. So like, I haven't been to church in, I don't know how many years. And I don't actually have any negative things to say about church or Christianity. I don't. I think there's a lot of beauty in it. I wouldn't say that I know everything about Christianity, and be wary of anyone that says that they do, but I I was pretty deep into the game,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a beautiful faith at its core in terms of what it tries to be and what it should be. And but then you're dealing with humans, man.
Yeah.
Like we're all humans. None of us are perfect. Even
Yeah.
in the church, even the godly people, they're like, we're all
Yeah.
humans. So,
Agreed.
and so I don't have any like bad thoughts. I don't even have bad thoughts about the experience. Like I still have trauma from it, but I don't regret it. Like it's this is
Well,
life, man.
and you really can't because it got you to where
Yeah.
you are today, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
that was a big part of your journey.
Yeah.
Um,
So I stepped down. If I didn't step down, I would have been fired 100%. And it was nasty, gross, whatever. And then next thing you know, I don't have a job. I don't want to go back into ministry. I was already feeling burned out during those years, and I knew that I wanted to try something different. But I have a master's in theology and an undergrad
bachelor's
in
degree.
English. Yeah.
Hmm.
What the F do you do with the master's in theology in the real world, right? So, um, long story short, I was unemployed for a little bit, and then I had a friend who was a manager at Sherwin-Williams Paint, and he's like, "Hey, I can get you an interview to become a manager trainee. It's a program called the MTP program. So it's a program where you can get hired specifically to become a store manager." Um, the pay wasn't great, but it wasn't bad, And I was like, I don't know, Mary. I don't, even to this day, I don't know that much about paint. And that back then, I didn't know anything about paint. Like, literally did not care. It was just what you saw on the wall. It just
Yeah.
wasn't my thing,
But
And
first, being a store manager, though, it wasn't really about the paint, was it? Was it more about
there you go.
managing
Well, there you go.
the team and the
It
people, right?
it ended up becoming, I think, probably the most valuable experience of my life. And it was maybe like professionally the season in life that I'm most proud of. So I said yes. I became a management trainee. Everyone else is in their early 20s, fresh out of college. That's what MTP program people are for. It's for the new graduates trying to find their
Sure.
way in the field. I get hired as probably a 36-year-old or something like that. I can't remember. And I do it. I was working 50 to 60-hour weeks. It took me a year to be a trainee. And then after a year, they immediately made me a store manager, which is not automatic, right? So I did well. I worked my butt off. They gave me a store. It was the Sherwin-Williams in Huntington Beach off of Edinger. And I ran that store for a year. And again, not knowing anything, the reason I was successful, I ran that store for a year. That year, I think there's probably 20 to 30 Sherwin-Williams stores in Orange County in my region. I won the President's Award. I was the only store in my region to win Presidents that year.
That's amazing.
There were store managers that were 40 years in the game that had never won a President's Award, you know?
Right.
And I worked my ass off like so freaking hard. I didn't know anything about paint. But it came down to who I was as a person and being confident in who I was as an individual. I was at that time was leaning into becoming more confident in myself, because even during those ugly church years, I know what I bring to the table. I smile, I care about people in the moment, I know how to take care of people, and I know how to be positive, and I know that I bring that to the table. I know that the energy I bring is my strength and it's a gift of mine. I don't have like an expertise. I don't know anything about paint. I'm fishing now. I'm not a great fisherman, right? Even as a pastor, anything good that came out of my time as a pastor, it wasn't because I was a great pastor. It was because I was leaning into the things that made me a great person.
Well,
Right?
and at the end of the day, even being a pastor and building a congregation, that was the word I was thinking about before. When you build a congregation, people are coming to see you, right? Because of the energy that you bring, because they feel good, because they felt welcome, so all of those things that you learned, you could take with you. And you hone those skills even more, kind of in this environment where now you've got to drive productivity or you've got to drive revenue or what have you, and motivate people, especially at a store level. It is hard working with hourly employees. It's like, that's not an easy crowd.
No. And so, it was a small store. I had a few staff, I think like 4 or 5 staff, not a lot to manage, but I learned so much because when I was a college pastor, that's what I spent a lot of time doing. And this is something that I do regret is, when I was a college pastor, I wanted so bad to grow my college group and I wanted it to be big. I wanted, we started with like 15 students who were beautiful souls, all broken, all trying to figure things out, but still beautiful souls. And I needed that college group to go from 15 to 100 during my time as the college pastor, because that would prove that I was doing a good job. And so I ran that college group like that. You know what I'm saying? I put that pressure on them, like with the leaders that I led, I regret that a lot. To this day, I feel so bad for the way I showed up in their lives. Along with the good things, I showed up caring and smiling and blah, blah, blah. But the core thesis of my insecurity, the way it showed up during those college years, was me trying to validate myself with my success, which was through metrics that could be measured.
And that's how we look at success in today's
in
world.
The corporate world, that's how it is. Yeah.
That is, right?
Yeah.
And even with social media or whatever, it's all about eyeballs. It's all about likes and shares and getting attention. And there's so much out there. So that is natural for us to try to do that and to, like you said, to prove that we can do something and prove our worth. I love that you said that that was probably the best success story that you had, because you really did have to work for it and earn it, right? And you did it in a way that you felt good about it. There
was no insecurity during those years. I treated every customer and I treated my staff for them. I didn't pressure them to perform well so that I could win something. It was like I just love them to love them.
And when you did that, you actually won the award. So you actually got what you wanted when you weren't focusing on that outcome.
Yeah. It was more just like treat people right, man. Like, like,
but
what the heck?
The reason why I emphasize that is I actually say this a lot to young people is it's hard when you're young and you go to high school, you got to get great grades, you got to get the perfect, test scores to get to the right college. You go to college, you got to get great grades, you got to do all the right things to get the right internship, to get the right job. And so there's always this outcome that people that we're focused on. We're trained that way. That's what our social pressures are all about, right? I mean, I'm a product of that. It was always about do this and do that, and then you can get that or what have you. So we're naturally reinforced that way. And I've had to let go over the years, right? It's not about the outcome.
Yeah.
because when you focus on the outcome,
Yeah.
you kind of limit your learning,
Yeah.
and you limit actually how far you can go.
Yeah.
When you focus on the process and the behaviors and what you're actually doing,
Mm-hmm.
then the outcome actually comes
Sure.
because you're doing all the right things.
Yeah. Or sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't come, that's okay. You
Yes.
know, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I know that that doesn't work in the corporate world, but in life and in terms of the type of person that you become,
No,
like
absolutely.
let the pieces fall where they may, but
Yep.
do the right thing and be the right kind of person.
Yeah.
That's just my
And in
opinion.
the corporate world too, I agree
Mhm.
100%. It's, whatever that was that you were striving for, you may actually gain something even better that you weren't
Sure.
even expecting,
Sure.
whether
Sure.
it's a lesson that you learned, a relationship that you built, or an experience that you were able to gain.
Yeah.
So you did that job,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
then,
I was sitting in my President's Day suite in Cancun with my wife. I had for my President's Day award getaway, and they had offered me a promotion to become a sales rep. Like even before I left for that trip, and that's what I wanted. Everyone wants to get out of the store, right? So I had the opportunity to become a sales rep. It was the next promotion 1 year into my, like store managers stay for years trying to become a rep, and but there were some family issues going on at home that really like one of my kids was having some issues, and he was very, very young, and my wife worked full time and I was working 60-hour weeks. Who the heck is taking care of him? I'm getting calls from the school 3 times a week, and I'm sitting in a retail environment. I have to run out the shop to get him at school, So there was a lot going on at the time. I made the phone call in my President's Day suite the last day of the trip. I called my hiring boss, said, "Hey, I'm calling to let you know that I'm declining the opportunity to become a rep, and I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice."
oh my gosh.
And I
that guy's like, wait a second, what just happened?
Dude, I was so scared, but like it was the right thing to do, and there's no good time to do that,
No, there isn't.
I resigned. I put in my 2 weeks. I was out of the paint world, and I was a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
Because
So,
yeah,
you're married. You've been married
yeah.
for how many years?
20, how long has it been?
Okay,
23 years?
needs
Yeah,
to
yeah,
roll
yeah.
off your tongue. 23 years.
23, 22 years and 22 years and like 10 months.
Okay, there you go. Okay. So you've been married for over 20 years, and you have 3 children.
Yeah.
You're a stay-at-home dad, and you've been doing a lot of different things. And what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I'm a fishing content creator, YouTuber.
Benjie
And
Kim Fishing.
that's right. Yeah. And so yeah, it was during that same time where I had come back to fishing. So I used to fish as a kid, and going back to your dad, I remember your dad taking me out to the pier to
Oh,
catch
yes,
mackerel,
all the time.
stuff like that. So I loved fishing as a kid. I fell off of it, stopped doing it when I became a young adult, like into my 20s. I basically stopped doing it. And now I was almost 40, and it was kind of a dark night of the soul because of the church stuff. And it was during that church time, where I started fishing again. And I think that my soul was yearning for something pure and something just fun and bringing me back to my childhood. So I think like I just went back to fishing, and I did it, and I was loving it. Any chance I got,
And
babe, can I go
tell
fishing?
everybody what kind of fishing you do.
I specialize in surf fishing. That's mostly what I'm known for, is just
What
fishing
is
off the
that?
beach. Fishing, it's like literally like the beaches that you go to swim and surf. I'm fishing there, on the sand, surf fishing. And so people who have no context at all, like they'll literally ask, like, "You can catch fish there?" And it's like, yeah, you can. And there's some big
There's
ones
water,
too.
there's fish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, long story short, I was just so passionate about it. And even when I was at Sherwin-Williams, like any spare moment I had, like that's what I wanted to do. And then stay at home dad, I'm making all the breakfast, lunch, dinners, drop offs,
The
pickups,
shuttle. Yep.
the shuttle. In between that, I drop off the kids at school in the morning, and I'd be driving straight to the beach. and I'd be fishing, and then I'd lose track of time. Oh shoot, I'm gonna be late, and driving like 70 miles an hour on the side streets to get the kids from school and doing all that stuff. So I had the thought somewhere during that time, I was like, dude, what if I started a YouTube channel and started making money from it? And then what if I don't ever have to go back to work?
Yes,
What if I
yes.
don't have to ever
Well, you
find
know
a
what?
job again?
I think that's everybody's dream, right? Like, what can I
Yeah.
do? And can I just do what I love? And honestly, that is everybody's dream. And it should be
Mhm.
everybody's dream. Find
Yeah.
something that you love, do
Yeah.
what you love.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you can make it into something that becomes an income stream, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Do what you love.
Yeah, and I was very lucky and fortunate because Rebecca, my wife, was always the breadwinner. Even when I was selling paint, even when I was a pastor, she was always making more money than me, and so that was what allowed me to quit my job in the first place. And so I've always been kind of the supplementary piece, and so it was very unique and lucky to be able to do that, and then also to have her blessing, because I wouldn't be able to do this without her blessing, and that's hard. I like that. I know that's so hard for her. So long term, my goal is for me to keep growing it to the place where I can have her retire a little bit early, and to be able to do that, to kind of hopefully even things
Well,
out.
and that is the beauty of a partnership, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And, I can say this because, well, I don't know if I can say this because I don't really sit in your shoes, but I can say this.
Mm.
I think people underestimate what it takes to be a stay-at-home dad, right?
A lot of work.
And I don't even necessarily like the term stay-at-home dad or
Hmm.
stay-at-home mom. I
Yeah.
mean, you are the primary caretaker of your children, which is
Yeah.
arguably the most important job that
Sure.
anybody can have, right?
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of my friends that haven't worked in the corporate world or what have you, you have to put a dollar value to it, because I
Sure.
know, coming from a dual income family, my husband has always worked and I've always worked. And you know what? There's a ton of sacrifices when you do that.
Yeah.
And I've had to pay for help.
Hmm.
I've had to
Hmm.
pay for people to take care of my children or
Hmm.
to drive them around or what have you. So when you start looking at it that way,
Yeah.
and you think about there is a value, there's a huge value, of course, but if you
Yeah.
put monetary value to it, I just think that we need to shift our view of
Yeah.
like it's less than. I mean, quite
Yeah.
honestly, we should look at it the opposite way. I say this to a lot of my friends, which I think it surprises them, because I think people expect me, having been a career mom, to
Hmm.
say, oh, if I had a daughter, then, I would encourage her to pursue this career or what have you. Like, first of all, I'm grateful that I have two boys. As much as I would have loved to have a daughter, and if I had a daughter, I'd love her dearly. There is a part of me, and it's more than small. There is a part of me that is actually really grateful that I don't have a daughter, because I'm a little conflicted. Like, I'm not sure that I would tell my daughter today, go pursue this big career.
Hmm.
And let me be clear, I wouldn't change anything that I have done in my career or in my life. And I'm extremely grateful. And I've had a wonderful career and experience, and just very happy about that. And it's all worked out great.
Yeah.
However, it was incredibly difficult. And not to say that difficult is something that you should avoid. I just don't know. I mean, having one parent home is huge.
Sure.
No matter what gender it is,
Yeah.
it is huge to have one parent home
Hmm.
that is focused on the things that need to be focused on at home.
Hmm.
Because I have to tell you, as a working mom, the guilt that you have and the judgment from other women,
Yeah.
even your friends,
Yeah.
about the decisions you make and what you're doing and how you're doing it. I mean, it's really hard. Talk about insecurity, just
Yeah.
piling on any insecurity that you have on top
Yeah.
of the guilt that you already have,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I kind of went on my own little
That's great.
rant. So you take care of your children. You are Benji Kim Fishing.
Hmm.
My kids are so impressed with your YouTube channel and all of your Instagram, and you're building quite a following and a brand. So
Yeah.
it looks like you're well on your way. So tell me about just looking back. What are some of the lessons that you've learned? What is your message? What would you say to young adults today and young men that might be listening?
It's a it's such an important question, and this is just me personally. Is yeah, just do your best to be a good person. Be comfortable in your own skin. We talked a lot about like that rat race, chasing the rat race, chasing achievements, getting that job, make getting a certain amount of money on your paycheck as validating things. To me, that's not important. I know money's important. Yeah, money's super important. Like we can't do a lot of things if we don't have money. Of course, it's super super important. But I think the core things that really give you longevity in whatever you're doing, and in my opinion, happiness and peace, is loving yourself, being comfortable in your own skin, and treating other people well, in a
So
genuine way.
yes. So let's talk about, how did you actually get there? How did you get from, when you talk about, and you emphasized it quite a bit, that you had a lot of insecurities. So
Yeah.
how did you move from the insecurities and trying to prove yourself
It was just
to
my yeah, it
kind
was
of the
just my
trend, to where you
yeah.
are now, or,
Yeah,
where you felt more confident?
yeah, we both talk about it already that we're still work in progress, but I've changed a lot for sure. And I think everyone has their own timeline. My timeline took me to my 40s to wake up one morning and realize, "Oh, this is who I am." And I'm actually okay with it. You know, I'm not these things. I'm not this laundry list of other things that maybe I was hoping to be when I was younger, or compared myself to that person or that athlete or that influencer, and realizing I'm not that person, I'm me. And I'm actually pretty cool with it because I'm pretty dope, you know? And there are things I'm not good at, and I don't care, right? Like, I really don't. And I
Yeah.
needed 40 years of my life to actually settle into that, to being able to say it and mean it. And
Yes.
freaking Mary, I freaking mean it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
48 now. I don't give an F. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still a people pleaser, but in terms of like expectations of who I'm supposed to be, I don't care, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm too old. Like I am who I am. Like I'm energetic. Like I'm positive, and this my core essence is who I am. I'm not organized. I'm the most messy, disorganized, ADHD brain. Like editing a video will sometimes take me 2 weeks when it will take a normal person 30 minutes. Like I used to beat myself up over that. It's just who I am, and just being comfortable in that. What is the key to getting there? I don't know.
Well,
I
do you
don't
feel
know.
like, was there a defining moment, or were there any critical moments where you can say, hey, that really helped me shift my mindset or my thinking?
I think it was a collection of all those many of those experiences that I already shared. The pain, there was a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of mistakes. Mistakes that I got called out on and paid for, and mistakes that only I knew about.
Mhm.
But like all of those things, I look back on them, I don't like. Sometimes pain teaches you, and sometimes discomfort teaches you. I think that the difficult experiences, at least for me, I learned the hard way. So I need that,
We
So
all
don't.
do. We all do. I
Yeah,
say this all the time,
yeah,
that, we learn when we fail or make a mistake, quite
yeah,
honestly, right? Because sometimes there's lessons that we could learn, but if we're successful and things go well, then we kind of brush over it
yeah,
because it went well,
yeah,
So what's there to learn? But it is, to your point, being uncomfortable and putting yourself in situations where you're
hmm,
uncomfortable is so important, because it's easy for us to avoid that. Fundamentally, as human beings, we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to be upset or unhappy.
yeah.
However, avoiding that is really, selling yourself short.
Yeah.
because that's where you are going to learn and grow.
Yeah. I would say difficult times, pain, those don't automatically equate you to building your character, but it's an opportunity to do so. And so if you have the humility and the self-awareness and the reflective ability to analyze those experiences and turn it into a good thing, the opportunity is powerful. But, it all depends on how you choose to receive those moments.
Yeah, and
And
respond.
yeah, that's right. 100%.
Yeah, it's
So,
all about your reaction and your response.
right.
And
And
that is
yeah,
something that you have 100% control over.
right. And I don't have any like practical metrics for explaining how that is, how you turn that into a positive thing, but I would just say like in a more ethereal existential sort of way is if you're always pursuing goodness and wanting goodness in your life and in the lives of others, then pursue that gut feeling of goodness, and making the world, whether it be in your house or around you, a better place. To me, like, I don't even know if that's a Christian foundation. I don't attribute it as such, but I think it is somewhat reflective of it. But I do think that we as humans are called to goodness and
Yes. Yep.
and to share that with one another. I think it's more powerful in darkness.
I'm 100% with you. I oftentimes talk about the circle of influence, right?
Mm,
And to the extent, how can I continue to expand my
mhm.
circle of influence? But definitely within my circle of influence, I want to do good. I
Yeah,
want to have a positive impact and I want to continue to expand that impact as much as I can.
yeah,
That's all I want to do. And
right.
I feel like if more people focused on that,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
then we can drive more
yeah,
positive change.
right.
Ultimately, maybe I'm just very rational and practical about things. It's just, what can I do? What can we control? What can I really impact and influence? And I
Yeah.
want to focus on that.
And honestly, to me, like that's what makes me happy. And so with this fishing journey, I'm not gigantic. I've got like built like 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. And
To
then,
me, that's pretty gigantic as new to social media,
yeah,
and I could take a lot of lessons from you.
yeah.
But that's a significant following. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
huge.
not nothing. It's not
It's
nothing. And,
huge.
like to me, like I'm trying to build it and grow, but I know those numbers. I didn't start this to validate myself through those numbers. I really didn't. Like, I really didn't. And now that I'm in the fishing world and in the industry, you meet people. And every one of those interactions, it's not about me growing. It's about me being good to people from the bottom of my heart. So I think that the friends that I've made in the fishing world, I think that's what they're experiencing. They're experiencing not a perfect version of Benjie, but a little bit evolved, a little bit better version of Benjie than from 10 years ago. And that makes me so happy. Mary, I could quit this right now. It's not about the fishing. It's not about what I do. It's about the type of person that I'm trying to become. And so I could walk away from this. I can stop my channel and walk away and I'll be at peace.
Mhm.
Like I'll be so at peace. 100%.
Yeah,
I'm so like none of it, nothing's ever perfect, but like I think it's the most proud I've been of anything I've ever done in my life because
that's
it's
great.
just not the perfect form of me, but the purest form of me
Yeah,
to where
I
I
don't
am
know if there
today.
is a perfect, right? I don't think we
There is
should
none.
be chasing perfect. So I think
Right.
that's a great way to say it. Let's go back and talk about then what about some lessons? Like, what are some lessons that you've learned? And again, think about back to your 20s and early 30s. What are some of those lessons? And what would you say you learned? And what would you share with others?
Yeah, don't be validated by your accomplishments. Your accomplishments are a result of being like the best person that you can be. If you can get awards and you can win prizes and you can make accomplishments and get the high paying job or get that promotion through, in my opinion, mentally unhealthy ways, absolutely. There are a lot of people that do. But in my opinion, if you're coming from an unhealthy place, even with those accomplishments, you're probably not going to be happy inside. It's just an unending hamster wheel of chasing something. And when you accomplish it, it's never going to be enough. You're always going to want more and you're going to be dissatisfied. And I
Mhm.
think that there's a difference between that and chasing that new accomplishment from a healthy place where you're doing it out of joy and because you're passionate about it and because you want to. You know, there's a difference. And I think that, yeah, definitely our culture of success and corporate environment, which you can speak to better than me, it's just an unending like rabble to just accomplish. And if that's not done from a healthy place, like, yeah, I do feel like that doesn't necessarily mean you've done anything with your life. I think strive to know yourself, self reflect, and sit in that. Again, like I'm like the biggest hypocrite because I said all of those things when I was insecure. Don't be insecure. I was insecure, you know? So I just needed my timeline. Maybe to best answer your question is I would want whoever's listening to this, it's okay. It's okay. You're
And it
good.
will be okay.
And it will be okay. You're okay.
Mhm.
Don't quit, you know? Keep going. It's fine. Don't worry. This is not a short game. You know, it might, and it still might not be okay a year from now. But if you stay the course and stick with it and do your best and stick to your heart and listen to your gut in the long run, at least for in my lived experience, it'll be okay.
I think what you said right there is really key is I love that. It's a long game, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that we have so much pressure on young people when you go to college and you spent 4 years, your parents have spent a lot of money sending you to school and you have to get out and get a job and you have to get a great paying job and you have to
Yeah.
do this and you're comparing yourself to your friends who have this big
Yeah.
job and this and that. And it is very, very easy to get sucked into that and to make
Yeah.
decisions based on those kinds of outcomes. And to be able to have the, I guess, discipline and, insight to say, wait, why am I really doing this? Is this
Yeah.
really serving me? And we all have to make decisions. Sometimes you take that job because you have to take
Yep.
that job. That's
Yep.
okay. And while you're there, then challenge yourself. What's the opportunity here for me to learn and grow?
Yeah.
How do I take this and convert it into something that is going to give me more
1000%.
joy, right?
1000%.
So it is definitely not an all or nothing type of
Nope.
scenario. There's ways to handle that because
Yeah.
you said it before. Yes, we all need enough money to survive and to live
Yeah.
and live comfortably.
Yeah.
So you have to do what you have to do, and you owe it to yourself to continue to push yourself and challenge yourself and to really understand yourself and to do things that are going to ultimately give you that peace.
Right. Right. Yeah, 100%. I love what you said about, sometimes, especially for people, young adults who are trying to figure themselves out, not every job is going to be that job, and so what can you learn
Most
in that
jobs
job?
aren't, by the way.
Most jobs aren't. Yeah,
aren't.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not every job. Most
Yeah,
jobs
yeah.
aren't. If you
Yeah.
find that one job, you're doing really good. So,
Right. Or you're
let's be
deluded.
clear.
So
Yeah, let's be really clear. So this
yeah,
whole thing, like you're going to land this perfect job. Okay. Let me just break it to you right now. It's not
yeah,
happening.
right. Yeah,
You got to make it what it is, right?
yeah, that's right. And
And,
yeah,
I'm not, so I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm not saying that if you got this job and you're like, oh my God, it's not this great job. I'm not saying you should just leave it. Make it what it can be. Take it for
right,
what it is
right,
and see if you can make it into something that's better.
right,
And if it's not serving you, then use that time and that opportunity to
right,
figure out how you are going to pivot or do something that is going to be better for you.
right. Yeah. 100%, because at the end of the day, you could be the most successful person in the world, but at the end of the day, you're coming home and you're sitting with yourself or with a few loved ones, and that's all you got. And life is a vapor. And like, I can't believe that we're at the age we're at. It's like I still look back, and we can talk about Orange Park Acres, and for me, I can flip my imagery and just go back, and it feels like it's yesterday, and all this time
Yeah,
has
it
passed.
does. It all feels like yesterday for
Like,
sure. Yeah.
life is so quick, and at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like, all those accomplishments, like, if it's not coming from a healthy place, who the f cares? No one cares, man.
Mhm.
Like, seriously, the point of life is just be the best person you can be and try to have some peace in your heart, because life's too quick.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh, Benjie, tell us, so what's next for you when you think about what you're doing in the fishing community and the YouTube world? What's next?
I'm going to keep pushing through with this for now, one day at a time, 1 year at a time. This year, like it's been actually 2 years, the goal of mine, I'm trying to write a book on surf fishing for beginners. So I've been working on writing that book. It's going to be an ebook, like an interactive ebook. So
Nice.
I'd love to finish that goal. And I just want to keep building my business and my brand in the best way that I possibly can. And my long-term goal with the fishing, again, I might end next year, who knows, right? But my goal is to do this for the next 10 years and hopefully enter into retirement where I can keep doing it for fun. And I would love to keep doing it as a hobby because for me, fishing is just a beautiful thing. Like you clear your mind, your brain changes when you're out there. And I think there's something special about it. So I do really love the game. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let me switch gears. I'm going to ask you some questions that I ask all of my guests.
Okay.
First, what's one stereotype that you've heard about young adults in their 20s? And if you could, how would you dispel that stereotype?
One stereotype of young adults. I think that there's a very negative stereotype and probably something that I drop myself even is that young adults can be entitled. And I think that can be true. But I also think that it's easy to say that. And it's also easy as like, what are we? What are we boomers? What are we, Mary?
No, we're not boomers. We're not
We're
that old.
millennials.
Gen X.
We are now the generation of judging the younger generation, you know?
Yes.
I think that there's probably some truth to that, but I also think that that's not true. And I think that we just need to get to the essence of every individual. And I think that the young adult generation has a gigantic heart and a very learning spirit. And we need to be able to see that. Yeah.
Great. What are the 3 most important things that you look for when you consider a job, company, or a career?
So 3 most important things. Do I like you? So whoever I'm interacting with, do I like this person? And does it seem like I would like the environment? That's one. How much do you value me? Am I important? So a lot of times that could be equated by the dollar figure for sure. But it could be more than, it can be other things that come along with that too. But am I important to you? Do you want me? And then third one, I don't know. So I'm just going to throw something out. Like, do I like the work?
Okay,
It
good.
is something I'm interested in because
Does it bring you joy? You talked a lot about that.
It's not all about the paycheck.
Yep. Great. All right. How about some questions about young men? What do you think it means to be a man?
Taking responsibility.
What do you think it means to be masculine?
Being able to have empathy.
Wonderful. How would you describe yourself?
I don't know. Someone who's just doing his best. Yeah.
I like that. Great. I think that's what we're all doing. So I love that answer. What does supporting young men look like in your opinion?
Physical presence and time.
Great.
And being emotionally present and willing to listen.
Okay. Last question. What would you like to see change about the story about young men?
I don't know if I would want to see anything change per se. I think that I would love the story to be right now and ongoing is that there's a generation of resilient, persevering, hardworking, humble, empathetic young men who will never quit.
That is a perfect way to end this episode. Benjie, I just loved every minute of this session that we had. And thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. And I know that you have a lot of fans out there, and everyone can see the passion and your joy that you have when you're out fishing. We're all watching, and we all can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you so much for having me, cousin. It was really fun, and I really enjoyed all of it too. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Benjie. Take care.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and now it's your turn. Take what you heard today and put it into action. Share this episode with a friend who's figuring life out too. And let's build a generation of leaders who lead with heart. Follow the show, leave a review, and connect with me on social so we can keep figuring it out together. See you next time.